Good Sunday afternoon. You know what that means. It's another exciting episode, Matinee with the homies. And we got a few announcements. But first and foremost, Campia, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. I hope everyone's looking forward to this show today. We'll be talking about disaster movies and the impact they had on the country. We might go off on tangents and stuff here and there, but if we do, just bear with us and enjoy the ride. Tomic, how about you? How are you? What are you up to?
I'm up to not much right now. I'm just chilling and here to have fun. So yeah, let's get into this.
Well, thanks for that.
Ronan, Ronan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Phantom. Hello, everybody. I'm Ronan the Crusader, as always, and we're here to talk disaster.
Is this a face reveal we're currently
Well,
seeing?
Who's the
Yes,
ugly
it
woman on
is.
screen? Who's the ugly? Oh, that's you. Never mind.
Yes, the ugly woman Rhonda is now me. I am now showing my face to the world. So, yeah, cover your eyes, people. Cover your eyes.
Jake, how's
How
it
about
going,
you,
brother?
Jake?
Doing all right, thank you. A little bit tired this morning. I'm surprised. I really didn't sleep as much last night as I thought I was going to, but whatever. I had to quickly skimper away right before the show started because in the half hour that my wife was here, she drank most of my coffee, so I had to fill that back up before we got started. However, I'm doing all right. It's a balmy 75 degrees outside, considering how cold it's been over the past few
Fucking
weeks.
raining here.
It's well appreciated. So I'm happy to be here, and as always, I'm Big Dog Jake, BIGGDOGGJAKE. Let's light the candle.
Okay, so we got a couple things we're going to talk about before we get into our main subject of today. One, we all would like to once again congratulate friends of the channel, Alec Baldwin's finger and Jessica Lindstrom, who was
Finger.
they got engaged last week. Once again, congratulate our good friends and
Congratulations.
Congratulations, my ginger friend.
Congratulations.
one of the biggest announcements today. We like to welcome Atomic Patriot as a official member of For the Homies. He's official.
Yep.
Yes, he's
Well,
official.
All right. Congrats,
I've been
AP.
accepted.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, Campia, what is our subject for today?
Our subject for today, as I said before, was disaster movies. We're going to talk about the impact they had, what we remember them from when we were childhood up to now. We're wanting to know what happened to them. Why are they not around anymore like they used to be? And we're going to carry a big discussion about that. I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of the origins of disaster movies. The first one, of course, was a movie called Fire from 1901. That was a short silent film. Not really, people don't consider it a full film because it was only a short film and showing what firefighters taking care of a house. So it would be more of a house fire kind of situation. But the real first one they consider is the 1933 movie Deluge. It was actually a epic for its time. They used different models and stuff like that of tidal waves hitting New York. So you got to see a lot of the I want to say the early signs of what disaster movies will become with what they could do with model work and things like that. And so we appreciated that. In the early 50s and 60s, you really didn't get many as much unless you want to talk about the atomic bomb and what that led to things, which we'll go into later. And then, of course, the golden age of disaster movies, which Phantom will be discussing right now, the mid 70s and the golden age. If anybody remembers them besides him and a little bit of me, I don't know if any of the rest of y'all were around. Ronan, were you around during that time?
During the 1970s,
Was you a little kid or anything?
He was a gleam in his daddy's eye.
Oh,
I was gonna
I
say
was not
the
even
prehistoric age.
I was not even a testicle in my daddy's nutsack yet.
I was gonna say the
I
prehistoric
mean, I was
age.
born in the 80s, so really the only one that had childhood memories will be Phantom, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Phantom, tell us about the 70s.
Back when cavemen ruled.
in
Back
in
when
the
God handed
genre
his dad
of
fire.
so in the genre of disaster movies, if you like, Campia was right. Those two were considered like the first two, but in mainstream, the very first disaster movie was Airport. So it was let's talk about the the difference in the genre of disaster movies. You have two. You have man-made disaster and you have natural disaster. So the original airport was a man-made disaster of what happens when an airplane crashes and stuff. Then then it led into multiple sequels throughout the 70s. And pretty
As you
much
do,
what
It
what
did.
what what killed that genre of airport type movies was Airplane in the 80s. It killed
You
it
could
off.
say it
But
crashed.
then
You could say it crashed and burned.
yeah, it crashed in Britain. But like in the 70s, the most popular movie of all time was Earthquake with Charlton Heston. That was in California. It was based around the Ring of Fire, San Andreas, and which it was what would happen if California, the San Andreas decided it was going to shake, and like literally every
California would
like
snap off the San Andreas Fault, just
yeah
kind of
yeah
float away. I guess be a little bit of a weird term,
will
but
sink into
I
the
mean,
ocean.
Which,
Sink into
considering
the
how
ocean.
California is now, well, maybe it might be for the best.
if we all lined up from basically
Yep.
like Baja up to like Eastern Washington and just stopped really hard, just everyone jumped at the same time and landed at the same time, do you think we could make anything happen with that?
No, not
Give me the
really.
crap? No.
A man can dream, though. Okay.
Man can dream. That's right. That's right. One of these
Well,
days.
I mean,
Dang,
even like when like one of the factors of like the bombings of Japan with the nuclear bombs in World War II, they were
Hiroshima and
afraid
Nagasaki.
because it's part of the Ring of Fire that those explosions could like cause disasters
there
around the
was-
Ring of Fire.
There were so many theories around detonating the
Mhm.
atomic bomb. There were some mathematicians that were like, okay, the core, like when it explodes, like the center point of this explosion is going to be as hot as the core of the sun.
Mhm.
And the sun is a massive fusion reactor, effectively. So there were genuine scientists working on this project who were genuinely concerned that it could ignite the atmosphere.
Mhm.
That there's
Right.
just enough oxygen concentration in the atmosphere that it would ignite the atmosphere and just burn everything away, and then the Earth would just bake.
That
And
conversation
we-
occurred during the Trinity test before they even
Yes.
tested the first ever
Yes.
bomb, because that was the first ever bomb. It was Trinity. They had that conversation about whether or not there was enough oxygen in the air to actually ignite the whole world. Just one bomb would destroy the whole thing. But well, here we are.
And we
God.
watched the movie Friday night that actually you could see what would happen if with the bombs blowing up in the air. That was Damnation Alley, because of how the radiation was up in the upper atmosphere, literally set the sky on fire
Mhm.
because of that.
as well as creating creatures.
Yeah,
Right.
and but then you have to look at the factors like also like in the 50s and the 50s and 60s, this is the height of the Cold War, this is the atomic age. There were a lot of like disaster movies that you consider like with like monsters. Like could you consider Godzilla as a factor, as any of those movies as disaster movies? In a way, yes. In a way, no. You could probably say the original was an allegory for the atomic testing, and he created Godzilla, which Godzilla is
Yeah.
literally a walking nuclear reactor. And in his wake, there's fallout, mass diseases. They showed it in the original movie.
As
But
well
like-
as Godzilla -1, they showed it in the new
Yeah.
one too.
Yeah, it's like like throughout the like you like in the I would say, I can't remember when it came out, but like War of the Worlds, the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds that came out in in the late 50s, early 60s. That's
Mhm.
definitely a disaster movie, even though it was it's technically an alien apocalypse because of all the damage that happened.
Okay.
For myself, like when you want to talk about disaster movies, it's like earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. You know, say
You
like
lean
some
you lean more
like
towards the natural disaster movies in the
yeah,
70s. Those were your thing.
or like somebody's like they want to they want to see the world burn, and what do? They set
Right.
up a nuclear device that causes a chain reaction.
Right, and
You know,
and this
Yep.
this goes back to your fandom. What you established is kind of a bifurcation where there's two
Mhm.
main types of disaster movies, and you could maybe over-explain them. I guess I will as
Mhm.
either acts of man that
Or
are
acts of
either,
God.
let's say, something that is negligence based,
Mhm.
perhaps, or is
Intentional.
something that is done intentionally, or a disaster as in an act of God, whether it be a storm, an earthquake,
Right.
tornado, something like that.
Well,
And
Tower
so when you
Inferno is a good man-made disaster. You know,
Yep.
oh yeah,
yeah. But like
Yep.
the Poseidon Adventure, man-made disaster, incompetence of
the incompetence of
the
the crew.
ship captain. Yeah, and
Captain.
you'd have like Earthquake, which Earthquake was just a normal day in California, and all of a sudden the San Andreas decided it was going to shift.
Mhm.
You know, then you'd have like okay, in the 90s, early 2000s, you had the core. The core was a man-made disaster because of what they put in the center of the Earth that caused the Earth's core to stop spinning, and it caused all of
Yep.
these disasters around. I mean, so there's so many aspects of disaster movies, and there's a lot that you could consider, but then you have to think, is it a disaster movie, or is it more, or is it more like
Does it fall under another genre?
yeah,
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing I was going to mention because we were talking about War of the Worlds, like especially the
Yeah.
one that came out in the 50s. And
Mhm.
of course, you can just kind of take the whole franchise of War of the Worlds as well, all the way back to the 1898 book, right?
Mhm.
It definitely feels like a disaster movie because a lot of the destruction and mayhem that occurs. A lot of it, however, is intentional from, of course, an outside force, namely
Mhm.
the Martians. That's where it's
Right.
coming from. So you can say it's a disaster film, but because the disaster is being intentionally made by an outside, sentient conscious force, shall we say, then it feels more in line with, of course, the usual invasion films and invasion genre that we always put a lot of these films with, like Mars Attacks,
Mhm.
The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all
Well,
that kind of stuff,
Independence
right?
Day.
Independence
Yeah, I was
Day,
gonna
there
say,
you
Well,
go.
Huge disaster
Independent,
movie, but it was caused by aliens.
yeah, but it's considered a disaster movie.
Yes.
You can
So
make the
It
it's
most
argument
certainly
it
was.
is mainly.
it's a double-edged sword when it comes to Independence Day.
Well,
It's
that's what
a
I was going to say.
double-edged
Is
sword.
You can
Phantom
make
said natural disasters and man-made.
Mhm.
I would actually add creatures and alien destruction to a disaster movie
Oh,
because
as natural.
those would fit
Well,
into it
okay,
as well.
so
Okay.
how would it be? Because like disaster movies, like if it's like alien invasion, if they destroy most of Earth and then take over what's left, that's an invasion. But if they
Mhm.
like destroy or like
They're
saying
there just to destroy,
Well,
which is
That's
what
the
they
like
did
to
in
natural.
destroy.
Independence Day.
look at Godzilla. So Godzilla started off as a dinosaur, and his body was irradiated because of the nuclear test. And
Mhm.
it's technically he's a man-made product of the nuclear era.
Yes.
And
Human
and
ignorance, you could
yeah,
say.
Well, that's
and
why I
also
said creature and alien.
Godzilla is
I don't
of
lump them together.
yeah. So Godzilla is part of the Earth, like the kaiju in the Godzilla franchise. Not maybe like one or two are
This fella is
man-made.
here.
Mega Godzilla was man-made. Biollante was man-made, and you have to and like you could say Cloverfield, he's an alien creature,
Mhm.
comes to Earth. Uh, Now like Colossal, that right there is more in the spoof genre of kaiju, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah.
So like and like the one in the middle at the top, that he's a god that they pray to like come in and like stop like evil. But like
Never
Godzilla, he's
Oh, that's what
and
he is.
like the War of the Colossus, the one down below, one next to Rodan,
Y
They're man-made. They're
Oh,
man-made creatures.
War of the Gargantuas. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one in the center one. And you know what?
Yep.
I gotta say real quick, I'm glad somebody actually also brought up Daimajin as well, which is the top middle
Mhm.
one. Like that's often an overlooked one, but yeah, that one's fun too.
Yeah, so he's a god that literally he
Mhm.
when people are in like at their lowest point and they need like help, they go and pray to him and he comes forth and he's vengeance. He's literally vengeance.
A force of
So,
nature, if you will,
yes,
that people
yes.
call upon, which is how a lot of people describe Godzilla as well too. A
Mhm.
force of nature, essentially a hurricane. Anytime he comes
He's-
in, he
He's
wipes
no
away
good.
everything.
He's not good or evil. He's
Yep.
just balanced. He's
Exactly.
straight up
Yeah,
balanced. Yeah.
He's like could you say Galactus would be in the same
Yes.
A force of I'd go
You know
with
what?
that.
Yes.
Just to kind of like tie it to biblical concepts as well too, because I like to think a lot about it with Godzilla. Godzilla is almost essentially like the Leviathan as described in the Bible, an
Yep.
aspect of nature that God has essentially created to either bring balance or to bring punishment towards man if necessary. That's
Yep.
how I would see it.
Well, so like in one of the Godzilla movies, I know Godzilla is going to be a topic here in the pretty close future because his 71st birthday is coming up. We are doing a
Oh,
Godzilla
yes.
episode. So in one of the Godzilla All Monsters attack, literally Godzilla, that version of Godzilla is the souls of the Japanese that fought in World War II.
Right.
And and then originally Godzilla, they didn't consider Godzilla a force of nature. He was just a byproduct of nuclear war, of nuclear testing and stuff. So like in the original movie, he's gray. His skin is mimics the burnt skin of the victims of the nuclear attack, the nuclear bombs of World War II. And then later on, he became a guardian of Earth. It's a long history with him.
Right.
I like the aspect of them making it where he's not good or evil, that he brings balance to everything. I agreed to that because that's who Godzilla is. Now, like, say you like if you look at like Twisters, for example. Twisters is probably one of the most modern disaster movies of all time because it's dealing with weather phenomenon, with the tornadoes, the conditions and all like that. Now you have movies so like in the 70s you had the genre like Peak with Airport and Earthquake, and you had the Poseidon Adventure. You had
the
Inferno.
Irwin Allen movies were just the peak of 70s right there.
Yeah.
He even got like I said earlier, he got Academy Awards for his movies back then. How many disaster movies do you see get Academy Awards nowadays?
Not a whole ton nowadays.
to me, if we even have like a really modern, anything modern, I'm just going to name it for what it is. Modern disaster movies is disaster porn. Like, if you look at horror movies today are blood porn because the disaster is usually they do way too much of it.
It's spectacle. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
when it comes to the modern ones, they show a
Theatrical.
lot.
We can hold
of
that for next week
theatrics.
for a horror show, horror episode.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
let's bring it back to this
disasters,
natural disasters.
yeah. Since you do bring it up though, some of the modern films, because I do remember there's also there's Geostorm, which is the one where like
that's what's going to fit into the late
That's
90s
the
and
Gerard
2000s.
Butler.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
There's that one, but Greenland's also another one. Now that you mentioned Gerard Butler, AP Greenland's another one that I actually hear is a pretty good one, and of course they have the sequel coming out very soon.
I did
AP's
watch,
actually seen it, so yeah.
I did watch Greenland 2-3 weeks ago. It was actually pretty good.
What would you say about it? Would you say it's a decent?
I would say it's a
for that era.
Decent, it's a pretty decent like I know I wasn't the only one. I know ABF, he watched it as well, and he said it was pretty good. So, I would say my opinion is I would say it's pretty good up there with like 2012 with some of the more iconic disaster movies. It's just underrated, but in terms of quality, I think. Now I will warn because it's definitely got some left-wing politics, but it's got other right-wing politics. It's got like pro-family message. It's even got like hints of biblical referencing and all that, like people going to church and saying like, oh, it's the end of the world, and even citing verses in it.
Well,
And
also you can also look at The Day After Tomorrow had a lot of left leaning stuff in it. You know, the environment. You know, it's like how these storms were created because of man. You know, the toxins that we put up in there, which you still got to look at Russia and India as the biggest polluters on the planet, and how like Earth had to reset itself because of all that. And you can say what you will about the movie. The movie was, the beginning of it was phenomenal. I agree with Campia. They literally did a shock value at the end of the movie with people freezing to death and
bringing in the wolves.
They
had no climax without the wolves.
Yeah.
So that movie kind of went down after that for me.
Yeah.
But the first, 30, 45 minutes was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like there's other, movies. We talked about Independence Day, Deep Impact, Twister, of course, 2012. Like that's one of my favorites from that genre.
2012 is great. I absolutely
it's like
love it.
It's and what you've noticed with all these movies is like it seems like every one of them nowadays they are about the disaster, but then they always put in either a family member or some kind of relative or children or something. There's always a relationship to build.
And there's also there's certain movies. There's like
more depth.
There's revenge. There's like a revenge aspect of movies, and I'm like, the fuck? Who would care about going for revenge in movies like this? The hell?
That dang asteroid, we're gonna destroy
it. Well, I mean,
Armageddon, exactly.
You could argue that Armageddon is really like very antagonistic towards the asteroid. I mean, they talk about the asteroid as if it's like sentient nearly. I mean, when they're
the asteroid,
it's
the
like
asteroid
it has sentience. It purposely
the asteroid is the antagonist.
Specific spots.
Let me ask this: how many of y'all like the movie
Armageddon?
I don't remember much about it other than like
really enjoyed it.
Honestly, it's
Willis
one of my favorite
right?
Michael Bay films. I'm gonna say I absolutely
wasn't Bruce Willis in it?
Yeah, he's right there in the poster.
Well,
oh shit!
For me, I only watched it once because I hate the end of the movie. I hate the ending of the movie.
It is very saccharine and sincere ending.
I had to watch it 3 times just to be able to watch it because each time I was falling asleep halfway through the movie. Then I fell asleep a third way through the movie. And then the ending, I had to see it 3 different times just to see the whole movie. And so
I have a question for a disaster movie. I have a question for what could we confirm as a disaster movie? Could Eternals be as that disaster movie?
Oh, it was the disaster at the box office.
A different kind, yeah.
Well,
to a point, which we'll talk about that later.
Does The Last Jedi count as a disaster? I mean, disaster.
Financially,
as the Eternals.
Financially, yes.
Financially. Actually, Campia, that kind of makes me think. If you did have a hard time watching Armageddon, I really got to wonder, how'd you feel trying to watch Deep Impact then? Because that's slower pace in comparison.
Which movie?
Oh, I could
Deep
not.
Impact.
Deep Impact.
I don't remember Deep Impact.
I've never seen Deep Impact, so I couldn't discuss on it.
All right.
Came out.
This is the movie that Elijah Wood did right before he got casted as Frodo.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good film. I would say, for me, I kind of like it, not as much as Armageddon, but I think
I followed
the big ass rock actually hits the planet, though.
Dude, the love aspect between Elijah Wood and that girl in that movie was so fucking boring.
See, right there again, though, the relationship.
It was
14-year-old kids getting married.
Yes,
so
it was kind of weird for the time, but I can't help but be like, oh, how sweet they're going to be together, even with the end of the world coming.
Call it what you want, but it's basically it's the Roland Emmerich scenario. He gets people together. Yep. You enjoy these people, and you don't want to see them die, and you want to see them last. He was the like if I forgot his name again, Irwin Allen was the
Mhm.
Godfather in the 70s. Roland Emmerich's got to be the 90s, 2000s.
Oh
because
yeah.
of these.
No,
He
he
was the
absolutely is. That's the comparison. That's the comment I was going to make when we were talking Independence Day. This dude is basically the godfather of modern disaster films. Just look at everything that he's done. All of it is almost complete carnage and destruction on a global scale, with the exception, of course, being 10,000 BC. That he wanted to dabble with like ancient, stuff and whatnot like that. But yeah, he does a lot of disaster stuff. Godzilla, Independence Day, 2012, all of that. He absolutely loves just blowing the fucking planet up.
Yeah, and also he is the reason why I deemed a lot
give
of
him
that
power
stuff during
to
that
nukes.
era fucking disaster porn, because even though these movies are good,
he did it so well though.
there are a lot of movies
They
he
made
did that
money.
he went it was overkill in a lot of the aspects of the destruction in movies.
In
You
The
know,
Day After Tomorrow, one of my favorite lines in the movie is a very inconsequential background line towards the very, very end, where the setup for that movie is there is going to be basically a 1 in a trillion chance storm system that's going to build and basically happen
Reset.
over the northern hemisphere of the planet. It will affect the southern hemisphere, but it's really going to affect the northern hemisphere to the point where so much rain is going to fall over so much period of time, but then it's going to get so cold that everything's just going to freeze. Basically, everything above the equator or like the Tropic of Cancer is going to just be frozen. And one of my favorite lines in that movie is like a couple minutes from the end. You hear it in the background from like the CNN news presenter. And it's something to the effect of the president of the United States has announced to Mexico that in exchange for accepting all of our refugees, we will forgive all of Mexico's national debt to the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got to make a deal somehow.
so that clearly
Gotta make a deal
shows a little
somehow.
bit of Roland Emmerich's left leanings, his left political leanings.
My,
And the other
how
thing
the
too,
two
I
look
kind of
different.
wanted to comment as well, is that day after tomorrow, just like with 2012, because when he made these two films, he essentially based them off of speculative nonfiction books. So for Day After Tomorrow, I got the page brought up right here. It's called the Coming Global Superstorm, and it was made by Art Bell and Whitley Strieber. They
Art Bell helped write it.
predicted,
Really?
yes, Art
That
Bell
Art
helped write
Bell.
it. Let's see here.
The
Yep.
Art Bell of
The
Coast
Art
to Coast
Bell.
AM. Wow.
So they predicted that it was the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic Drift that would basically just either shut down. It would cause a whole ton of warm water rushing to the North Pole, releasing all the cold water that's trapped there, and then you would see drastic temperature changes throughout the whole world. That's how you get the crazy hurricane-looking superstorm, ice age freeze that occurs.
Continent-sized hurricanes, basically.
Yeah.
Essentially.
But here's the thing: he may not be wrong. He might be wrong about the time it happens, but he may not be wrong about it actually happening.
Well, a lot of
People
these drastic
put it to
changes
be
do occur
speculative.
over
It's
periods of
feasible.
thousands of years, so it's possible.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Just
from what
as
I keep
2,000
hearing, we're
years ago.
overdue for another ice age right now, if anything. That's what I'm constantly hearing.
Well, also, if you look at it, it's like they actually went to scientists and talked about this stuff.
Yes.
So, I mean, he has scientists like talking about it. It's like the only way that this would happen in real events is if like a massive comet flies past the Earth in between like the Earth and the Moon type scenario, right? Where it literally completely destroys our ozone layer, or it completely destroys the magnetic field around Earth. That would be the only way that this scenario could fucking happen.
Which could be
It
a
has to
possibility.
be. It has
It
to be a
could.
shift in the Earth's atmosphere plus radiation belt that would cause, because basically the movie is Earth is resetting itself over decades and decades of pollution and toxic shit we throw up in the air. It was more about the environment and the
Cockroaches that are us.
Well, literally, this is like what, a few years after Al Gore did his documentary, which was he lied in it, which was
Inconceivable
the
Yeah.
unbelievable
Truth,
truth.
yeah, that was the scare of that time was
Inconvenient truth.
the storms are going to get worse, and this is around Katrina and
Well,
yeah,
when Inconvenient Truth came out, they
Mhm.
said by 2010, Florida, or at least
Would be
Miami, at the
underwater.
very least Miami, would be underwater. Then
Mhm.
it was 2012.
Mhm.
Then it was 2015. Then it was 2020. Now it's you know,
It's a
keep
concept they
doing
keep
that.
pushing over and over, and then they keep
Yes.
pushing the window for this to occur. Most of the time,
They've been doing
they
this since
say,
the
"Oh,
60s.
maybe we're a little off by a couple years," but it almost kind of feels as though they're pushing it just to get people to sell their beachfront
Mhm.
property, just so that way
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
can buy it
Yep.
themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know how many beachfront property Obama probably still owns, even
Dude,
though he's part of this whole campaign of pushing that global warming's coming?
and he took he did indeed take at least some flack for this from his side of the base right
Mhm.
after his second term ended, because what did he do
Martha's
during
Vineyard
his
on the
during
beach.
well, he moved to Martha's Vineyard, a house
There you go.
that is on a small island that
Mhm.
is, granted, not that far away from the mainland. It's very, very close, but it's at mean sea level in the north of the country. And what did he do the previous 8 years? He extolled the values of clean energy and going
Mhm.
green and having to save the environment, and trying to reach that, or not or making sure that we do not reach that 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase over X amount of years or what have you, so the sea levels don't rise 80 feet or whatever the hell. If
Well,
they
I
really
mean-
think it's going to happen in their lifetimes, in a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, why would you buy a house that is going to be underwater while you're in your golden years? You
Well,
wouldn't,
hell,
of course.
I
If you
mean,
truly believed it, you would not.
I mean, hell, last year we always thought that Miami around Christmas time was
Alright,
going to be the
so,
new Atlantis, right, Jake?
going back to the movies. So I was gonna. I mainly want to ask, like, which disaster movie do you guys think is the most plausible disaster?
Earthquake,
Uh,
earthquake, hands down, it's earthquake, because if you remember in the '90s, they had the San Francisco quake mimicked this movie. The when during the World
Mimicked
Series,
earthquake today.
yeah, it was like literally, it was
Here?
across the bay from
I don't think it's on there.
there,
Well,
and
I-
I mean literally, it was a lot of people like compared it to the events of earthquake is what happened during that time in the '90s. And I mean, we've seen earthquakes in California, but not as bad as that one.
Mhm.
On the scale. I mean, literally, San Francisco was in rubble,
Yeah.
and they're still like decades, like what, 30, nearly 40 years plus, are still like trying to do work there after 40 fucking years.
Yeah, there's still massive buildings that have damage to their
Mhm.
foundations and things like that they're constantly repairing. One thing that I was going to ask you, AP, is you said, which one of these is the most plausible disaster? And I think I want to ask you a little bit more information, because all of these movies here on the screen, maybe you could say the '98 Godzilla movie isn't a disaster movie, but let's just take for granted that the 8 movies on the screen right now are all disaster movies. To me, I would ask you, it's a matter of scale, because which one do I think is the most likely? Twister. I think Twister is the most
Mhm.
likely to transpire before
Yeah.
any of the other ones. It doesn't mean that, a massive comet would not come and hit the planet and destroy life as we know it, because that could feasibly happen. There's a literal astronomical chance that it will, but it could happen. However, if I was to say, will one of these happen in the next 10 years, and I had to pick one, gun to my head, I would choose Twister. And if you're not worried about the scale of the disaster,
I don't know. I
agree with you
choose
to a
Godzilla.
point,
I choose
but with
Godzilla.
that
Like,
with that movie, with that movie though, I think that Twister, they were bringing it on themselves. They were chasing the Twister. So
that's true. That's
So
true.
I would go
I
more
mean,
towards
there's storm
hurricane,
chasers.
more hurricane than I would Twister, being the destruction of the earth. But
Dude, I would say Dante's Peaks also because look at Mount St. Helens.
Here we go.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, look,
It
look,
does.
look,
Mount St.
look at
Helens.
look at the in Hawaii. There's volcanoes in Hawaii explode
There's also
not
Yellowstone.
basically all the time, and you think of like these
Mhm.
obscure, like in maybe like the last 20 years, maybe the last 10 years. Think of all the volcanoes that have exploded like suddenly in the last several years.
There's
You
been
know,
there's been 2 or 3 in the past like 6 months.
yes,
yeah,
There's
one
in
in
Southeast
Hawaii.
Asia. There's
One
one
in
Yeah.
in
Hawaii
Hawaii.
did.
Which
I mean-
all this kind of like tectonic movement that's involving like volcanoes and everything. Just to answer your question, AP, at least on my end, I didn't think that this would be a likely scenario, but now that I remembered who it was that kind of wrote the book that helped inspire this, I'm going to say 2012. And let me explain. So 2012, the inspiration that Roland Emmerich got for this one, again, because he got inspiration from books. This one was Fingerprints of the Gods, the evidence of Earth's lost civilization, and it was
Yeah.
written by none other than
Graham
Graham Hancock. Yes. It
Mhm.
was the same guy that Gary and Quarter Black talk a lot about on Forbidden Frontiers, and he covers a whole lot of like this ancient alternate history of sorts with like hidden civilizations that we didn't even know about, and of course the discussion on the cataclysm that occurs in the movie called Earth crust displacement theory, where basically the poles are going to start shifting. Now, the validity of that whole situation occurring could still be up in the air, but considering that a lot of what Graham and many others have said in like this kind of community starting to like come out to be proven true, there's a good chance that maybe there is a lot of validity to the whole Younger Dryas apocalypse that occurred before, and we might end up seeing something similar, some kind of shift in the axis of the Earth.
Or we could just see
absolutely
Yellowstone blowing its top because it's due for another explosion.
Well,
I think it's funny.
due for
We're
like
saying all
millions
these,
of years
and
now.
we're saying all
Honestly-
these, and the one thing that's
Hey,
going to happen is going to be
I
Independence
live
Day.
in the radius that would be ready.
Oh no! Everybody save AP. Help AP. But building on what you're saying, Ronan, and Phantom, you saying Yellowstone going off. Ronan, you saying Yellowstone going off.
Mhm.
These types of things that would happen if the Earth's axis were to shift even a few degrees, much less like flip entirely, which some people say it would happen over the course of a number of years, but it would entirely flip, north and south would flip. There would be massive earthquakes, which would then cause massive volcanic eruptions. Mount St. Helens would go up, Yellowstone would go up. These calderas that have been just sitting for thousands of years potentially. And
Hell,
maybe get
even
little cracks
Jake,
every
you
now
also
and again.
think even places
blown
that
open.
you don't know
Huge
volcanoes
tsunamis.
there, like places that you don't even know volcanoes there could blow its top.
No,
Because of that.
absolutely. There could be tall hills that are just covered in grass and trees that maybe it exploded 30,000 years ago or hell millions of years ago, and now it's just grass. Basically,
Well,
if that caldera pops, it's like shaking up a champagne bottle and popping the cork. It would just.
It's like Ronan said, moving of the plates, it might cause new ones. There might be another
it
one
could
here,
make new
another
ones.
one there.
Make new ones. Oh yeah.
But here's the funny thing: we're talking about all these disaster movies and what could happen and everything. Yet, the most profitable. Can any of y'all tell me the most profitable disaster movie there ever was?
Oh,
And you're gonna laugh.
Independence Day.
Titanic.
I'll say Titanic.
Oh,
man.
that's right.
Titanic is the. Say what you want about
Titanic
Titanic,
is-
but it's the biggest box office of any disaster movie.
Well,
Same thing
also
with
it's
awards.
because it's on true events. It's on true events.
It is,
know,
but it
people
doesn't
knows
make
the
it any
history
less of
of
a
it.
disaster movie. Even
Yeah.
though the first
Yeah.
45 minutes of it is a love story, you know what's going to happen, and
But
they
it's
make
also-
it look so realistic.
But it's also in the genre of man-made disaster because of the incompetence of the
Kind of, yes. I think it's kind
captain.
of both because you've got the they should have seen the
arrogance and
yeah.
natural
that big piece of ice was not was
And if
there
those-
for the whole time.
If those guys up in the crow's nest weren't watching them kiss, they might have seen it earlier and alerted somebody. Or maybe slow ass could have gotten his ass out of his goddamn bunk and got
But
up.
man-made mixed with
made
natural
this decision
disaster. It's
earlier.
kind of a mix of the both. Maybe that's why it did so well. That and Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's what you call a 4-quadrant movie. It appeals to men and women under the age, and over the age of 35. Those
I
are
mean-
the 4 quadrants.
Kate
And,
Winslet just laying there buck naked on the seat kind of helped too, I would say.
That's,
Well, no,
that's
and
men
also-
under 35.
Take me like
How
one
do
of
you
your
get the
French
men
girls
over
running.
35? Well, you
Well-
see how the inside of the ship operates with those massive pistons driving up and down.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
And
also
then
you
have all the
also
clothes
And then
for
all the
under.
all the
It's
doors
the
closing,
historical-
trying to lock the
it's-
water
it's
behind
the-
there.
Go ahead,
because a
Phantom.
lot of people watch that movie to see if they got the history right, and it's like the only thing that wasn't true to the events is the love story because it never happened on the boat.
Right.
That's just
Right.
it never happened. It was just part of the movie. But a lot of people went, like myself, knowing the history, knowing the impacts that it happened, because it literally changed how they sell boats between Europe and America because of the events of the Titanic.
Right.
And it was a shift in, like, okay, now we can't go as on that path like we used to. We have to go this way. And also you have to think a lot of when they invented the plane, literally, you don't have boats like that going across the ocean like that because of planes.
Well,
you
it
know?
was a number of decades until planes took over that vast majority of travel. But yes, you're correct. I mean, there still are, but now it's either for
It's so rare.
large amounts of goods,
shipping.
used whether it be
Shipping
oil
naval.
or
It's
military.
military.
It's military. Oh, excuse me. So there's 3: or military, or leisure, like cruises, cruises that depart from the east coast of the U.S. to go to Europe, to the North Sea, let's say, for a few weeks or whatever,
Yep.
or
You
to
know,
the
actually-
Mediterranean.
I got a question here because I decided I think it was Campia that said, like, what's the most successful disaster movie or the most profitable, essentially, right? I decided to, use good old Bloogle just to see what would come up. The Gemini AI usually pops up first just to kind of give you a quick overview. Right here it says the most successful disaster movies include Titanic, Independence Day, so I guess that kind of puts that to rest, and The Day After Tomorrow, based off their financial success and critical acclaim. But here's where it gets a little interesting. Other highly successful films in the genre are Contagion, Gravity, Armageddon, and Twister. Now, Contagion's the one I really kind of want to highlight because Contagion's a movie about a biological disease escaping and spreading out into the world and killing a whole lot of people and causing martial law, governments to break down, society collapsing, which now begs the question then for me, would we consider movies like Contagion and Outbreak and a lot of those other films disaster movies? Now I'm kind of curious.
I would put those into, like, like a lot of zombie movies start off with like some kind of a chemical leak.
Yep.
And it causes the outbreak. That's more
28
biological
days later. 28 days
disasters.
later started that way.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't even call it
it-
disaster. I just see it biological
Thriller, maybe.
warfare. I mean, yeah, kind of warfare, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, I wouldn't put it in a disaster form, with the exception of maybe a few different movies. Like AP brought up, God, the zombie movie. What's it called?
28 days.
28 days later.
Yeah.
Not 28 Days Later. The other one, the one with Brad Pitt.
World War Z. World War Z.
Right.
World War Z.
Oh, World War Z. Yeah.
Like that
see-
had a epic thing of being taken over by the zombie creatures. So
Yeah.
it's like
Okay.
something
So
like that. I would call more a disaster movie than I would.
So one of the characteristics for a disaster movie's got to be scale.
destruction.
That's the big thing.
It's destruction.
Scale.
It's
Okay.
destruction.
Scale of destruction.
Yes.
Which
Yeah,
Contagion I will
World War
fall
Z,
under
they-
that.
In World War Z, they didn't emphasize on the horror or the biological. They're like, oh, yeah, boom, 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 boom. And
Yeah, not in the movie,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in Contagion though, I think you're kind of right. It would be kind of biological warfare, kind of disaster. But the reason that movie did so well is because we had our own. So in 2020, you'd see everybody was at home and they were watching this movie based on what they were going through at that currently.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, not wrong.
which leads me into the next question I was going to ask you is like, are we watching these movies? Is it the destruction that draws us in? Are we all nihilist, or are we rooting for the people to succeed and defeat whatever the situation is?
That's
You know what?
that is the big question.
And I think this photo actually, these three protagonists right here from these three different
Mhm.
movies, you know, the first one is Planet of the Apes, second one is the newer Mad Max Fury Road,
Tom
third
Hardy,
one is Children of Men.
Clive Owen.
Now, this is a great like black and white between nihilism and pure hope, because
Mhm.
on the one hand you have Planet of the Apes, where literally the end of the movie is a gut punch saying it does not matter what you do, Earth is done, that's it, the apes got it, humans are never taking it over again. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have Children of Men, where, you know, at the very, very beginning of the movie, the youngest person in the world dies, 18 years old. And there hasn't been a birth since that person was born. However, the very end of the movie, Clive Owen, who is escorting this lady right here, is pregnant and gives birth. And in the middle of massive civil unrest and chaos between militaries and paramilitary factions, civilians being caught in the crossfire, him walking slowly with her while everybody hears the cries of the baby, they just stop. The gunfire stops, everybody goes silent, and they just let them go because they're in awe of what they're witnessing.
It was a
that
miracle.
is
It was
hope.
a miracle
They have
from
hope.
God. It was
They
a
have hope
miracle
for
from
the
God
first
right
time
there
in
and
years.
then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amen.
But you know, also
No, Max is in the middle.
for myself, I think for like disaster movies, it's the spectacle of seeing the destruction, because that's what you're here for. Earthquake, prime example, right? And it's like you want
San
to see
Andreas, too.
you want to see the shit get destroyed.
Just look at that cityscape at the bottom end of
Mhm.
Earthquake. I mean,
Yeah.
that is fucked. Like,
See,
if you were,
That's
if you were driving
LA.
on the
That's
if you were driving on
LA.
the 405 and you saw LA
Yeah.
like this,
Hmm.
you'd be like,
I mean,
oh my God.
Well,
and
actually, you
another
know
thing,
what? That highway collapsing right there is very reminiscent of the San Francisco shots that they did right after
yes,
the earthquakes
Mhm.
occurred. Yes. So it's
yes.
absolutely like art reflecting reality in a very terrible way. But yeah.
See,
And I mean,
I agree with you, Phantom, and disagree,
mhm,
because
mhm.
I feel like in the 70s, it wasn't really about the people. It was about like you said, it was about the
Destruction.
destruction. It was
Yeah.
about the seeing it
Mhm,
for the first time.
mhm,
Whereas in the late 90s and the 2000s, we had seen stuff like that. So it wasn't
mhm.
nothing new. We knew it was CGI. We knew where they could do this and do that with dinosaurs, with buildings. So I
Mhm.
feel like without the story in the newer, I say the younger generation, I don't think
Mhm.
it would be as popular as they were. Like if we didn't connect with
Right.
certain
Mm.
Right.
Go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, they kind of dropped the fetishization of like the shots of destruction, where you basically were just seeing shit get blown up effectively, to introducing more and more melodrama, more and more character-based stories.
Exactly.
As you said, Camp You. So, Phantom, please.
But this movie also had the aspect of like, okay, destruction's over with. Then you follow Charlton Heston, you follow the characters on like, okay, what the hell are we gonna do? We're trying to find survivors and stuff. And then like modern movies now, it's like you have that, like San Andreas, prime example. Great, probably one of my
Yep.
favorite rock movies, because it was actually pretty good, and it's basically a remake of this movie in so many ways. And you had that, okay, like you have like the father trying to get back to his kids, or you're trying to get to a loved one, that enhanced the story of the disaster. And a lot of times it took away from the disaster itself, because you stop caring about the disaster, and you're more worried about, is this X, Y, or Z is going to get to their family or get to their loved one. And it takes away from the shock and awe of seeing your city or your planet being rocked. And
Yep.
it's like it becomes a side character in some movies, and
Well,
I don't like that, because you're here to see the destruction. You're here to see everything that you hold dear is here one minute, it's gone the next, and you don't know what the fuck to do.
so if I may, your preference, Phantom, is basically, if it's going to be a disaster movie, I I'm speaking for you, tangentially. Your preference is what you're saying. I feel if it's going to be a disaster movie, I want this movie to show me the disaster, and I want to see the disaster.
The human element should be it should be a background character compared
Okay.
to the disaster itself.
So I have a similar view, but kind of skewed the other way, which is I feel that if you have a good disaster, nice large scale disaster that is affecting mass swaths of land and millions of people, I feel that if there's a good story and there are well written characters with good relationships, personally myself, I find that to be more engaging because you care about these people and because they're dealing with such a massive disaster that
it's something relatable. It's something relatable in an event that doesn't happen very often, or at least everyone doesn't experience.
Let me build off of what Jake said real quick, because it's actually making me think a lot about it too. There's a quote that I always like referencing back to from Alexander Dumas, the guy that wrote Count of Monte Cristo, the guy that wrote The Three Musketeers. And his quote, and I'm paraphrasing this, is, "I do not believe that happy endings were meant to be so easily obtained. I believe that happy endings are like the castles that are guarded by dragons. We have to fight our way to obtain them." And when it comes to a lot of these disaster movies, that is essentially kind of how I see. So, like what you said before, Jake, with like Planet of the Apes, how it is on the opposite end where it's like nihilistic and hopeless because Earth's controlled now by the apes. Apes are the dominant species. Humanity is either wiped out or enslaved or just basically an afterthought now. And then on the other side, you have Children of Men. Now, let's put Children of Men as one example. There is so much horror, so much hopelessness, and so much muck, grime, and terror occurring in this post-baby birthing world now. The British government's basically become an authoritarian society. Immigrants are being treated much worse than what a lot of leftists think that they're being treated like here in the States. They're literally being rounded up, put in cages, literal cages, or they're being sent to camps to be dealt with and handled with. However, then you got the ghettos, of course, where they're being actually, separated and segregated from. And then, of course, a child is finally born after decades of infertility. There's finally a semblance of hope coming to the human race once again. And
so
this child has a chance to finally find that freedom once more. They put all of that terror and all that hopelessness only to finally give you a shot of that hope once again at the end, just like what Alexander Dumas said. And that's kind of what I like to. Sorry, Phantom, go ahead.
Go ahead and finish your point, because I want to address something that was said in the chat.
Sure. So just to finish up the point, right? The point that I'm trying to make with all of this is that I like watching the disaster movies for the spectacle because it's great. Everybody loves watching some scenery porn and some, scenery destruction. It's fantastic. But having characters that are able to overcome them and push through them and be able to come out on top and see the sunrise at the end of it, I feel is what makes these films absolutely worth it. Because you're not just seeing the destruction, you're seeing humanity do what it always does despite that destruction. And that's survive and thrive.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of movies. I can agree with you on that. However, there are some movies that take the like certain disasters. There's like other shit that happens after a disaster, like secondary events, right? And a lot of these movies, they won't even like focus, have any say like with earthquake in the movie, the Hoover Dam cracks and it causes massive flooding, and that was like part of the movie. But then you have like other movies that like deal with that. And it's like they instead of focus, having it where it's an equal portion focus on the human element and the disaster element, they move more focused towards the human element. It's like, okay, these people are still in danger. There's still more events that's going to happen, and it becomes like obscured or not happening or not seen. Now, like I want to like address Westward. yes, Reign of Fire is a disaster movie. Why? Because they unearthed dragons, and literally dragons destroyed the earth
Oh yeah,
for population.
Burn it clean.
Literally, yeah,
burn it clean.
it's literally they literally cause Earth to be, they glass Earth. That is a disaster movie, 100%. People die. Massive cities are in rubble or burnt, and the dragons are not going to let humanity. They are the apex predator.
But wouldn't that fall
And
more under sci-fi creature though?
Fantasy.
in a way, in
Fantasy.
a way,
It might, but I want to build on a point that you made, Phantom, which is you get to a set of movies where they're concentrating more on the secondary effects of the disaster, what happens after, and what is the most common secondary effect of these massive disasters. It's an apocalyptic event, so we have post-apocalypse. That's easily the most common, and here we have the photo.
Well, three examples right here. Do you consider these?
Apocalyptic? You
What-
could argue
Well, which is
Planet of
also
the
why-
Apes is
Would these fall under
Getting,
disaster
uh,
movies though? Because
that-
it's after the effect.
Okay, so
I would like to
Children of
point
Men,
out-
Children
argue
of
the
Men,
same
I'll
thing with
die on the
Children of
hill
Men.
saying that
If
it's not
there is-
post-apocalyptic, but it's dystopian instead. Because
It's okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
more
Okay.
dystopian.
yes,
Okay,
So
I'll
there
give
you
you
go.
that.
So I
Because-
want to point this out because Greenland is a particular movie where it shows the end, pretty much not the end of the world, but a massive disaster that wipes out a majority of life on the planet.
right.
However, they just announced a sequel recently, so it's going to be a post-apocalyptic movie after the disaster. So we're seeing the full-on aftermath of what happened, and I honestly can't wait to actually see that, because that I think we should honestly, some disaster movies would probably benefit to have a movie or even more depth to see what happens after the event, because I know at the end of Greenland 1, they exit the bunker, finally seeing the sunlight after years, and they're like, whoa.
It's
Yeah,
back.
so you're still building. I get what you're saying there. Like, you're still building the world of what happened during the disaster. So it's like you're getting a second half of that disaster movie that you're getting.
Yeah,
You're just getting
exactly.
the aftermath, and it's like building on that. You got to wonder, like, do you still consider that part of the disaster movie? So you watch them back to back. Are you watching a second movie, or are you watching the continuation?
I
of
think
that
you could
disaster
say
movie?
it's a continuation, because the trailers suggest that the after effects of the asteroid hitting it were so great that you're seeing even like rogue meteorites kind of crashing onto the Earth as well every now and then. A meteor storm that occurs.
and
So-
radiation storms, radiation lightning storms, and all that.
Well, it's like the
so
Mad
you-
Max series you're seeing from the
Yeah.
beginning, when the world started just changing through the 4 movies.
Yep.
Well, also like with the Mad Max movies, like the very beginning is like Earth's, the economy. It's
Societal collapse mostly.
yeah. And then Road Warrior is like when governments fail, and it's reverted back to dog eat dogs.
Yeah.
The strongest survives type deal.
Yep.
It's not until Thunderdome is after the bombs are dropped. So technically, if you look at it more like Thunderdome is more the disaster apocalypse scenario of the series, and then like Fury Road is like
What
whatever
builds
in
out
the
of that?
yeah, it comes out of it, like the massive storms and stuff. Like like certain movies, like say like with Planet of the Apes. We got a sequel to it, People Under the Planet of the Apes, which wasn't as good because, spoilers, Charlton Heston, he's not in the movie to the very end, and he gets killed at the very end of the movie.
Damn.
Sterling
But-
people.
But like
Spoilers.
you look at the like genre, like for myself, I like this. I like to have movies with humans, and I like to have that aspect of it. But when it comes to like, say, after a nuclear holocaust, like we saw this with Damnation Alley the Friday night, with how after the events we had like massive like like scorpions growing to the size of horses and killer cockroaches and
Bog
stuff
of
like
Town.
that.
Yep.
It's like I like to see a movie where like, okay, the events have happened, but then what comes from that? What struggles these people have to go through? And you don't get that with a lot of movies today. Like 2000s, you had like sci-fi did all these a post-apocalyptic movie. You had disaster movies and stuff.
10.5, yes.
Yeah, it was
Sharknado.
like more or less it was the event, and then it's like you don't see the ramifications of the events. It's either oh, I got to get to X, Y, or Z, or like there's like a lot of disaster movies that like they're trying to prevent like another disaster happen, like say nuclear bombs. They're trying to get somewhere to stop these bombs from blowing up and even causing more fucking damage.
Right.
But it's like Dante's like Dante's Peak, prime example. You had the volcano's eruption.
There.
You had
There it
the town. You had the town. Like you had the incompetence of
Not
like,
listening to the scientists.
yeah, and it's like you seen what happened, the events that led up to the very end of it, and then the end of the movie. You had the human elements there, but it was more focused on the volcano and what the volcano was doing compared to the human element of the movie. And that's why I think for me, I love Volcano more. I mean, Dante's Peak over Volcano, because Volcano had that racial undertone to it. It was more allegory
it
to
was really
racism.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say it was very ham-fisted. It was very weird way
Well,
to
Save That Movie
frame
was
that
Tommy Lee
type of
Jones.
allegory.
Mhm.
Say that
Yeah.
movie was Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah,
Volcano?
and Hayes. Those are only two
She
good
actually was a decent
characters in the
actor.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But me personally, again, I still love Volcano. Of
Well,
the two,
which
I
one?
love it.
I'm like 20. Is it 2012 that they end up in a water like engulfed ship or something?
Yeah.
They're
Yes,
in arcs.
Yeah.
2012. So
Arcs.
20, arcs.
You
They
will.
call them
Like
arcs.
float-
because
The
floating
arcs. So they
There's
end up in the
like
arcs,
a
and
dozen
it's
of
like
them, like 10 or a dozen of them. They each
What?
hold like
no,
10,000.
well, it's like the
or whatever.
Phantom. The
they were
Phantom's
building-
point. Like, what are they
Mhm.
going to do after that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they just going to live on these boats from that point forward? Like, there was no
Until
real
are they gonna be
resolution.
Noah?
Well,
They're gonna be there.
2012. Well,
Yeah.
2012 ends with the 4 ships, because I think they were building 8, but they could only build 4 in time.
Mhm.
It
Okay.
ends with them actually going to Africa, because apparently they said that. So with Earth crust displacement, when it occurred in it, not only did all the tectonic plates shift, and you were seeing like all the crazy disasters, Los Angeles sinking into the sea, Yellowstone, bursting open. It also brought forth the big deluge, the Great Flood, which I would
Mhm.
argue was the first ever great disaster that occurred on the planet. God basically saying, "I'm wiping the slate clean. All you people are degenerates," and floods the earth, except for Noah, of course.
But I'm
which
saying, do
bummed
we
me
see
out.
them? We don't see them get to Africa though? That's my point.
Well, we don't see them get
It's like
to
we were
Africa, but
hopeful, but that don't mean it happens. That don't mean
They-
Africa's
Well,
still
let me
there.
They do
Give
say that
another
they're
ex-
heading towards Africa, and when the camera pans out at the end of the film, you see Africa's like the one continent.
Oh,
that
okay,
is just
okay.
dry.
I didn't remember
standing
that.
up.
I didn't
Dry.
remember that.
Right.
Okay.
It's
All right,
still dry.
Let me give you another prime example of a classic movie, When Worlds Collide. This is from the 50s. So basically, there's a comet heading towards Earth, and you have the human element, but they're focusing on them building the ships to leave Earth because there's a moon that's going to become the new Earth that's around this comet. And you have the human element, but it's more minuscule to their struggles on building these ships. And then basically I think maybe one escapes Earth and they land on the planet, and you're more focused on okay, it's the anxiety of, hey, we got X amount of time to get these ships built to get off planet before we're all dead. And then like the human element was there, but it wasn't prominent. And you had like other movies like the Crack in the World. the only human element was the scientist trying to stop the Earth from literally splitting in two. And it's like modern disaster movies to me is more focused on human elements, and it's like the disaster part is just it's there and it's gone. And I miss that element. I miss seeing, like earthquake. The I would say the good first 10 minutes, nothing happens. Next 20 to 30 minutes, there's the earthquake, and then it's the aftermath. And you don't get that today. You just don't get that today. You just
It's about the spectacle, not the world building.
Yeah, the event is more of a side character compared to the actual people of the movie.
Well,
and they're more prominent.
You're leading me right to something I was going to say. Like, we got the 2000s, the 90s, the 2000s, and then the early 2010s, or right around that time. Disaster movies were very few and far between. But what were they? They were movies like Dwayne Johnson movies. Like he made, if you want to picture up, like Rampage, Skyscraper, San Andreas. Those are still disaster movies, but what did they build around? One actor. Not really what's happening, but the actor himself, instead of the spectacle of what it is.
So okay, so
and I feel like this is starting the downfall of disaster movies.
Yes.
Well, okay, I would say that it could cause the downfall of disaster movies, but that's because Dwayne Johnson here is very much full of himself and has a big ego. He wanted to come in and try and make these films. I wouldn't say you could see a downfall of it, just because you got films like Geostorm and Greenland, which Gerard Butler's in them, but it's not like he's trying to be the main focus of it, as opposed to Dwayne pardon my language, Dwayne the cock and balls Johnson over here, basically, because I don't respect this guy all that much. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, some of the newer ones are coming out and seem to be putting a good balance of the disaster spectacle and the human element too.
Well, you're giving one example. That's what I'm talking about. Like whereas we would get maybe 2 a year, 3 a year, now we're getting one every 5 years.
Okay,
and that'll lead into the next thing. I think disaster movies are still around. I think you're 100%. They're still around. But the thing is now is they became Marvel and DC movies.
Yeah, it's
They've
a niche.
become merged into these
the superhero genre,
long arcing stories that happen over dozens of movies and decades of years.
Prime example: Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2 is a disaster movie because of Ego putting his feet all over these planets and literally, taking over the planets and killing everything. And then you have to look at Infinity War, disaster movie,
completely.
And then
literally
you have
snapped
to look
half of all humans out of existence.
Yes,
literally just like that, gone.
I never considered it like that, to be honest, because anytime we're talking disaster movies, I always, again, my preconceived notions were something along the lines of like Day After Tomorrow or Independence Day. But I guess you can make the argument that films like Avengers: Infinity War, or maybe Guardians 2, I'll try and disagree on that, but like you can make the argument that these films like could be construed as disaster films, or better yet, and I kind of like this a lot more, they are genre films that have disaster film elements to them, is what I would say. I think I feel more suited to that.
And that, I feel, builds off of Campy's point, which is where you used to have one or a couple of these a year. Now you maybe get one every 5 years, with the takeover of superhero movies, with again
the destruction being in those movies,
dozens of movies over many years. They're taking aspects of other movies, and in this case disaster, and they're hybridizing them with what is the current trend,
100%,
what was at least the current trend
in that case,
let's say 10 years ago.
Look at Avengers.
I was going to say I'd put Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron in that camp as well, because both of them involve the complete, almost, well, one's the near destruction,
what could have been
complete destruction of 2 cities on the planet. One is New York, of course, with the battle, and then the second one is Sokovia, where the whole city just gets wiped out.
And I mean, look at which one, I forget which one it is, but whenever they send the guy up and he blows up the building, and they're all like, the Avengers are nothing but destruction. You're just
Civil War.
Right.
Civil War. It
Captain
was
America.
Civil War. I
Yeah.
can't remember which
Yeah.
one.
It
But
was
look at that. That
Mhm.
leads to their destruction wherever they go. So that could be that's
Mhm.
my point leading to.
I
You
see
know,
what you mean.
it's
Okay.
it's hybrid into these. Like, we don't get the disaster movie because people are going to the superhero movie seeing the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
I
yeah,
see.
disaster movies have fallen under that niche category because you don't get them like we used to.
You know what
you're
disaster movie we're not talking about?
what?
Deepwater Horizon.
See,
I mean,
it's funny you bring that up too, because that's
that's a
another one that
disaster.
that Google was mentioning as well. That's another one that they were also bringing
I've
up.
never seen it, so I can't discuss it.
Deepwater Horizon here. Yeah, this one. What was this one about again? Was this the BP oil rig that it was in reference to?
Yep.
Yes.
But then,
Yes, BP. Yep.
but then also you could consider the third movie in the Resident Evil movies as a disaster movie because of the virus and how it literally killed Earth.
Well, that
Took
goes
out-
to, for me, that goes back to Contagion. It kind of
Yeah.
fits into that.
Sure.
It's just more action filled.
Yeah,
But it
but
makes I can see it though, because the T virus in that third film
Mhm.
basically terraforms the planet.
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So in that instance, I can sort of understand what you're trying to say.
Well, remember,
Maybe I would put
remember
that as a
LA.
horror film adopting disaster film
I
elements.
mean, look at LA. I mean, LA is like falling apart because of this. You know what I mean?
Not
And
just
it's
LA.
like
They,
like cities are
Oh.
destroyed. And, you know,
everything
you
west
have
of the Rockies is just sand, basically.
yeah,
You know, they
yeah.
make it to Vegas and they uncover like the "Welcome to Vegas" sign just like by
Yes.
accident because there's so much sand on top of it.
because the
You
T
know,
virus
the only people
destroyed.
there are just like
everything.
hundreds and hundreds of meters underground in those
Exactly.
laboratories.
Mhm.
Right.
And that leads me to my last question, I guess, unless y'all want to talk about this for a second longer.
We can go into the last subject.
Last subject basically is like,
Yep.
I want to know from each one of you, why do you think people love disaster movies, and why do you think there are people out there that hate them? Like, give me both sides of the scenario for you.
Okay, I think I'll go first. Fam, do you want to go
Go ahead.
first? Okay.
No, you can go ahead. You go ahead.
So my answer is two parts. One is a very simple one, and one is a little more involved. The really simple answer for me why there are people who will love and hate them is I think that there are some people who, and it could be an age thing, it could be an interest thing, it could be a difference in genders, what have you. But I believe there are some people who view disaster movies as maybe disaster porn and nothing else, and they're not interested in that. They want to see some type of human to human drama, so something like Children of Men,
or they
let's
just
say,
like the destruction.
would be more the style. Or on the other side, they just like the destruction. My second answer is a little more involved, and I don't necessarily want to kick off a massive conversation about this, but one of the questions that you brought up, Campia, is for the people who do like disaster movies, is it a sense of nihilism, or is it just we like the destruction, or is it that we like to see the people that are involved in these scenarios, or that just happen to be caught up in these scenarios by happenstance, overcoming them in some way, shape, or form? And I was thinking about this, and I basically went back to, for me as a Christian at least, but for most every major religion on the planet, if you go back, there is a flood myth or a resetting myth. There is a disaster that has transpired very early on in the chronology of whatever religion or mythos or whatever you want to call it, and the very nearest to the beginning as you possibly can get, where something beautiful was made, corrupted very quickly, and then it had to be reset. We had to start over again for some reason. And so personally, I think that inside of us, there is an inbuilt maybe
need,
whether it's a need or
I'd
whether
say
it's just
curiosity.
something that we feel
That's the
drawn
same
to,
word I
a
was gonna say, yeah.
curiosity, you could say, of seeing these disaster movies, seeing these massive disasters, see what would happen if, there was this massive storm that flooded the entire planet and made it basically uninhabitable for generations or what have you. But that also lends itself to the case of hope, because with that need, I feel, comes the desire to want to see people that are like us, just humans in this case, age, sex, race, doesn't matter, overcome these odds and be able to start anew after the resetting. That's my two prong right there.
That's a good. That's good.
I think that's a fair answer.
Or Atomic, you want to go next? Do you have any anything to add to that?
I'll say that's honestly what I was gonna say was I think that it might be people have like as Jake said, there's just curiosity, a fascination with it. They just have a fascination with it. There's definitely a pull about it when it comes to disaster movies. It's like whether you know what's going to happen at the end. And I know personally, I don't like when movies end in the bleak, like, oh, everyone dies. There's no stopping it. It's the end of the world. There's this like, for example, and it's knowing that one movie with
Nicolas
Cage?
Cage.
Yeah,
Nicolas
Nick
Cage,
Knowing,
yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of a scientific explanation of or a weirder explanation of the biblical end, how all the adults are condemned immediately and all the children. That is a semi-hopeful ending to it, but at the same time, it's like you see Nick Cage like embrace his family one last time in the end of the movie, and it's just destruction. The sun wipes out all life, and to me, I don't really like those endings because I'm like, it seems too bleak. It seems too nihilistic. Because to me, I like hope in stories. I like
Mhm.
like, for example, not anything related to it, but to disaster movies. But I like the hope arc, like how in the end of the trilogy of Lord of the Rings, it's hope.
Yeah, you're a
Stuff
hopeful
like
person.
that. Stuff
Yes.
like that is like hope. Hope kind of has impact, but like, don't get me wrong. I love when seeing like drama or conflict because it builds character. It adds depth. It adds stuff. But when these disaster movies, when they
Well, you
I
follow.
think
You
that's
follow.
my reason.
You're saying you fall into the camp of the hopeful to see them
Yes.
come out of this. You're the
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall
Again,
into.
like what Alexander Dumas says, about
Yeah.
happy endings.
After we work for
yeah, you're rooting for the people to succeed. Bring it from the jaws of defeat, and when they don't, it makes you feel down.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
So-
that is kind of the point, though. If movies like that, like when they have a dark ending, like, oh, everyone gets wiped out, everyone on Earth dies, and all
I
that.
can't say that. I've saw quite a few movies where it's a dark ending, and I enjoyed it. Dark City being one.
Well, no, I'm not saying you can't enjoy it. Like, I'm just saying, like, the point of that movie is it's kind of meant to be not a happy ending. It's not meant to be like joyful or something, and that's the point. It's meant to inflict that kind of darker feelings, but you can still say it's a great movie and all that. Another movie that I think is objectively bad. It's a zombie movie. It's a more niche movie. It's where everyone dies. Every human gets infected by a zombie. There's no humans that live at the end of it, and at the end, it just says like game over, as it it's just an annoying like movie, and I don't like movies like that. But on the other hand, that's my perspective. I think people have many reasons why they don't like they like or don't like. I think I can't really describe what other people are. I just say my personal opinion. That's what I like. But I think Jake put it best
in this podcast and in this group here. Like, hopefully, we show everybody here that we love both sides of the story. We're not going to judge you for anything. It's like if you've got one side or one. It's like we all have different. Yeah, we have different opinions, and we're different people, and we love to hear everybody's take on it.
So,
at least tonight, at least you had to do your disclaimer today for me.
I was going to do it earlier, but then Jake was off the screen.
The one I made.
So my take on the whole like disaster films and everything, why people love them, why some people might not like them, and to kind of build on the hope thing as well too. Actually, I was going to bring up, and we don't have to discuss this because I'm sure we're wrapping it up now. But The Mist, Stephen King's The Mist. So
Yeah.
let just get
Oh,
tell,
yeah, you're
tell me
right.
real quick, if you guys consider that a disaster movie.
It's more supernatural than
I'd say supernatural
disaster.
disaster. I think
I,
supernatural.
I would say
disaster.
disaster because most of the movie they're in the building and you don't really know what's
Yeah,
happening.
they don't know
I'd
what
say
it
more
is.
suspense thrillers. What
From
I'd
their
say
point
more.
of view, it's definitely a disaster. That's for sure.
Yes, but we don't see none of that, so I'd say it's more of a
It-
suspense thriller.
Fair
It
enough.
actually falls under like supernatural horror.
Okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
in a
I'll
way.
agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
But to actually
I-
discuss
yeah.
endings of sorts, right?
Mhm.
At that film, everybody knows the ending.
Oh,
of
that ripped
that
everybody
film.
apart.
Everyone knows
The
about
film
it.
and the book
Everyone's got
end
their
very differently.
opinions. Yes, they absolutely do. And I know this because I read the novella for a college project that I had to do. I am one of those guys where the film is actually pretty great, and Frank Darabont and God, who else was part of that? Was it Greg Nicotero that was part of it as well
Greg
too, or was it just
Nicotero.
Frank
Greg
Darabont?
Nicotero
Yep.
does the special effects.
They
Yeah.
so
Yep.
those two, like, they love working Stephen King films, and this film was no exception. It was great up until that ending for me. I can't stand
Thomas
when
Jane sold it so well, though.
he
Oh,
did.
yeah.
He absolutely did.
I see why they
will
tried
give
to
him
make
that.
him a leading star because he was just so good in
And
that.
I mean,
Mhm.
this yes, it was such a great performance, and he sold it perfectly. Despite that, of course, I just could not stand the ending because of the sheer hopelessness that occurs
such a
in
downer.
it. It is
Mhm.
such a snatcher of belief and hope and sorts. And yes, and again, it's objectively good, especially in the presentation and the execution of it. But I can't ever get behind it because it crushes
Well,
my fucking soul.
Here's the
honestly.
thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'll finish out with this, and I'll let
Okay.
Phantom take it from
Mhm.
here. But I'll say this: I think the reason a lot of people enjoy the darker endings or the disasters and stuff like that
Mhm.
is because look at your life itself. Like, do you remember the good things more, or do you remember that? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. What stays with you longer?
You're not
Does
How
wrong.
many
is it
times have you
is it
woken
your
up in
fails?
cold sweat in
Yeah,
middle
is it
age
what you?
because
It's
you got a really nice Christmas present? No,
How
it's
many-
because you peed yourself once in first grade, and that's what
exactly.
How many
Exactly.
days
And I think that's what draws people into those kind of movies.
how many times in a day are you just doing a regular errand and the next thing you're just thinking about, oh God, I wish I hadn't ended with that one chick, or oh God, I wish I hadn't pissed myself.
So y'all
in
see my
class that one
point.
time.
That's what
Yeah,
draws
that's
people to
fair.
those movies.
That's fair.
No,
It's
it's a good point.
Schadenfreude.
That-
At least I
yes,
don't have it that bad.
that is a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to finish just to finish me off real quick. For me though, I will say
That's
I
what
know.
she
I'm sorry,
said.
fam.
Quit.
That's what she said.
I still like a lot of these disaster films. The spectacle is great. The human element is the one thing that always sells me more so, because again, I'm a hopeful person myself. I'm a Christian too. And me being a Christian, I believe that the ultimate ending of everything that we have before us is going to be, God being the victor, all of us being with him. But again, outside of that, trying to look at it from a more general perspective, it's the idea of like humanity coming out on top against the odds despite everything. That's kind of why I enjoy it. I'm sure that's why a lot of people like it. Some people probably don't like these films just because it's too cheesy, too much, destruction porn, or they can relate to it from the negative endings because of, like what you said, Campia.
It
We all got
stays
a
with
lot
you.
of terrible shit, and it stays with you.
Connection.
Yeah.
Personal connection.
Go ahead, Phantom.
All right, for myself, when it comes to horror movies, I love the destruction,
Disaster.
and I love to see what comes next.
Point blank simple.
What is the next hurdle these people are going to have to go through? And it lacks
In
it
Earthquake
lacks a
2,
lot.
Electric Boogaloo.
And but so for me, it's like I love these. I love movies that like destruction and stuff, and I like to see what happens next. I like to see if say there's like a major disaster and it like opens up something that's hidden underneath the earth and it comes out and it's a next struggle that people have to fight. Something like that.
Your curiosity kicks.
Well,
Yeah.
Cthulhu.
The thing
Yeah.
that I also like about disaster movies, I just remember this point, is the uncertainty. Because most disaster movies don't have sequels, so you're uncertain about the end. You don't know how the end, like whether it's going to be
Or they're so
brutal, a
or
dark
they're so
ending.
terrible They're terrible. They leave you a cliffhanger, but they don't do a sequel because
Oh,
it's
yeah, I
so
know.
terrible.
So there's the
Oh, yeah.
uncertainty as well
or
too.
or then there's Sharknado.
Oh, yeah. Which is
Oh,
just
yeah.
Sharknado, which is fun.
Yeah. But so thank you everybody for coming in. We're gonna start rolling out outros. Jake, I'll let you go first. What you got going on?
Yeah, sure. What I have going on is this: doing stuff for the homies. Obviously, here 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday, doing matinee with the homies with these fellas here, Phantom, Campia, AP, myself, and Ronan. If he ever so decides to be on here, he's always welcome. We really enjoy having him here for these conversations. And then for myself specifically, Thursday evenings, I will be doing the same thing I do here, bottom right-hand corner, producing, doing it for the homies, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Thursday night. That is what I have going on other than my real life around me. As always, I've been Big Dog Jake, BIGGDOGGJAKE. I am a professional, though occasional, BOA. I am a writer for hire. I love video games and I love metal music, and I will talk to anyone about them. You can follow me on all the socials or hit me up on Discord at BIGGDOGGJAKE. I have it literally everywhere. Good luck trying to take it from me.
So Atomic, what you got going on, newbie?
I've got I don't got much going on right now. I'm going to be modding for Jess's stream when she starts that, and that's going to be fun. And
nice.
you can follow me on X and on YouTube, where I did an interview with Rough Night, where we talked about movies, the state of Hollywood, and
Good interview.
entertainment as a whole. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So
And that's it.
Ronan, what you got going on, Rhonda? What you got going
As
on?
for good
Yeah,
old Rhonda
yeah.
over here, so now that I finally got my camera
Ronda
set
Rousey.
up, everybody's gonna get to see my ugly mug more often on stream, either on my own streams or just collaborating with other people. As you know, you will see me here again on Sunday as well. I absolutely love having these discussions with the homies. It's wonderful. On my own things, however, I'm probably going to be hitting the gym soon, maybe like an hour or so. After that,
Why hit it?
I will be doing another stream, and this time, I promise, this time I will start Faith, the Unholy Trinity. Last week, I haven't been able to, kind of
Ooh,
get started
nice.
on that stuff just because life kind of got in the way. But tonight, it is happening. And I can promise you this, on Halloween night, if
You'll
that's
lose.
when I finish Chapter 3, you will see not just good old Ronan the Crusader, you will see Father Ronan properly dressed up. Oh, yes.
Nice.
And remember, we save Father Garcia in this household.
Oh, yes.
Campy, what you got going on, brother?
I am M. Campia U fan. I am a Sugar Honey Iced Tea poster. You can find me on X. You can also I'm working on a video currently, so I will be posting my first video for this channel. But
Ooh.
I'm mostly just like I said, a SHIT poster. Just all around memer, and I'm here on Sundays with these guys. I don't have anything else other than that. On to you, Phantom.
All right, so for myself, Thursday night, the official For the Homies podcast. Also, I did an amendment to our thing for subscriber goals. So at 400 subscribers, Kreese and Vagabond are going to do the one chip challenge. When we hit 500 subscribers and monetization, Jake will have his legs waxed live on the stream after we get monetization and hit 500 subscribers. And you guys will get a part 2 of my pain playing.
He's going to play the full
Dragon
game, ladies
Age.
and gentlemen.
No, fuck you. I'm not.
Full
I'm
game.
not.
Entire game.
From
beginning to end.
Oh, this will be fun.
And we're
Full
pushing
gameplay win.
to after we get monetized and we get our first stream after Jake waxes his legs. Also, at 1,000 subscribers, Ebola has told us, we don't know, we can't trust him about this, but he said he's going to do a face reveal at 1,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for coming in. We will see you Thursday night for the Homies podcast. I'm Phantom X. He's M. Campia. He's Atomic Patriot, the newbie. He's Rhonda, the Crusader, and he's Big Dog Jake. And this has been Matinee with the Homies. And
Rhonda
next
the
week,
Crusader.
Peace out,
next
everybody.
week, we're going to be
Peace
talking
out.
about horror movies.
Horror
So
movies.
see you guys. then.
That's gonna be
Good night,
fun.
everybody.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
drink the water at Joey
Alright.
Garcia's house.
Like the stream and go over to Jess's stream and bug her. Later, guys.
Tasteful.
Hail to Jessica Lindstrom, my ginger